Welcome to WA This Week. I'm Jonathan Huston, a member for Netherlands. I first want to recognise David Honey, the former member for Cottesloe, who was the first anchor for this program and who has provided both the name and the signage as you see behind me. So what is this podcast for? It will be a weekly or so roundup of key issues or events, especially in City Weeks of Parliament. Parliament sits fortnightly, 17 weeks this year, Tuesdays and Thursdays inclusive. We sit next week. Last week we discussed new tobacco laws to protect lawful retailers who have been swamped and intimidated by criminals importing cheap and illegal product. This bill was prompted by my colleague Adam Hort, member for Kalamunda, Shadow Police. Under his urging, the government rushed a bill that will now give much greater powers to protect legitimate retail businesses, liberal to the core. Then we also kept up the small business theme by introducing retail barring laws to provide protections to retail workers who are harassed or threatened at their shops. It's like an AVO for a premises rather than a person. Again, this was policy promoted by Libby Metten prior to the last election. So that's 2 out of 2 pure liberal small business territory being promoted and copied by the ALP. What was that about us not having any policies prior to the last election? Did you see how federal Labor this week, through the Export Finance Corporation, has given Rio Tinto a $383 million loan for an Australian taxpayer-funded loan for a lithium mine in Argentina? Note that Western Australia's own lithium projects are under extreme cost pressure, including the recent mothballing of the Albemarle processing plant in our own southwest only weeks ago. So that's right, federal Labor is providing hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign lithium projects. What do we hear from state Labor? Nothing. What about that made in WA? It's disgraceful. Moving on to energy, let's have a look at the last election when Labor spruiked its net zero credentials and committed to ending coal electricity by 2029, with 2 shutdowns, with the first one in September next year in Collie. They pilloried the honest and forthright advice from the Liberals, especially my colleague, that's Honourable Steve Thomas, our shadow energy spokesman, who said that any speedy shutdown would lead to an energy catastrophe this decade. He was ridiculed and shut down by Labor. Now, I want to reach out especially now to young voters, because I know you are very moved and driven by net zero. And I wonder how you feel now knowing that all along, Labor had no intention of closing down coal stations. They just wanted your vote. Well, as Paul Murray wrote in this Weekend West Australian, he wrote the truth, that Sanderson has now admitted that they are preparing to keep the 2 coal-fired power stations running because it's short of renewable energy. Then, a few days later, news leaked that Sanderson, the Energy Minister, is planning, guess what, a 300 megawatt gas-fired power station for the southwest grid because of the uncertainties of renewable energy. This is exactly what Steve promoted before the election. This is my problem with Labor. No integrity, bag and tag, an honest politician, then spin the story to copy exactly what he said. So in the last day of Parliament, the government introduced a Treasurer's Advance Bill for 2026. What's this about? Well, the Financial Management Act gives the Treasurer about a 3% leeway to overspend. That's sort of fair enough in principle towards the end of the financial year. But no, despite the fact that she says he has a surplus, Treasurer Safi Aldi is asking for another 3%. That's not 1.2 billion, that's 2.4 billion because costs in state Labor are out of control. Then Treasurer needs this money to keep the lights on. We'll be there to keep her accountable for why she needs this money. We are here to protect your money, your liberty, your freedoms, and your right to live the life you choose. I'm Jonathan Huston, member for Netherlands.